Welcome back, guys, and today we're taking a look at a very special item that we have. It's the Stormtrooper Stunt Helmet from A New Hope, Episode 4 of the Star Wars series. And this particular prop, replica if you want to call it that, helmet is made by RS Prop Masters out of the UK. They do a fantastic job of taking a replica, or rather they've taken the original and they've replicated it using molds and hand crafting and hand painting all the details to make it as close to the originals back in the 1970s as possible. So anything from the textured pattern on the actual top of the helmet, you'll notice that there's an asymmetrical design in terms of the tubes, where one side of the tube will be a slightly off size, as it were, and even the small details such as the eye lenses. There's a bit of trimming that was a little bit rough, as it were, on the original pieces. So they've kept everything really to the original specs as it might have been, and in particular based on the original helmet that they had in their possession in order to make this one here. Okay, so let's just do a bit of a walk around the helmet itself, and just to give you an idea of what it entails. So typically when you're talking about the New Hope, episode 4, you'll notice that the frown is actually gray. One of the misconceptions that oftentimes you see this, it looks actually black on film, but it's actually gray. Typically on the Stunt Trooper helmet, you'll see about 4 teeth on each side, roughly. And depending on when they were taking molds of these back in the days, I guess as they were taking it off the mold, there's a lot of degradation in the plastics that they were used. So the teeth did vary over time, is what I'm told. And yeah, so that's one piece. One thing you might notice through the Empire Strikes Back, they changed that to a black teeth, as it were. The other thing to notice is the lenses themselves look relatively black on camera, but as I'll show a little later, they're actually a green tint or green film. On the side, you'll notice that the detail and workmanship, it's all actually hand painted. Later editions you'll see, or even from other prop makers, there'll be plastic or decals, as it were. And all the work here is carries over to the back. Again, I think you can see that it's not quite asymmetrical in terms of design. The rubber gasket they use is as close to what they originally used back in the day. As we turn this around, you can also see that the top brow, as it were, is relatively low. There's other versions of Stormtrooper helmets. One of them would have been the hero helmet, which was used by Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. I chose to go with the stunt helmet, which is a little more prevalent. There are more copies of this in the films than there were for the hero helmets, which are exclusively for the main actors. So I thought this actually looked a little more, in my mind, what I envisioned when it came to Star Wars and the iconic Stormtrooper helmet. The other thing to note, in the back, or rather in the underside, you'll see that there is the clipping strap for your chin to keep it on, a foam insert for your head. It's actually a relatively snug fit. And here's a good chance to actually see that green film that I mentioned earlier. It's actually just a very simple film that was used. You can see the underside of the teeth. And again, the black rubber trimming on the side here. See if I can zoom in a little bit more on the top of the helmet. And we talked about texture, and you can see, if you can on this camera, that you can see the texture on the top of the helmet there. And that's all based on the originals, in terms of what they would have had on the materials back then. The screws for the ear, which I'm kind of wondering if it really is the type of screws they would have used back then, because boy, do they really stick out in the inside here. Not an issue in terms of getting into your side of your head or anything, but just quite a long screw to have inside the helmet. And one thing I know, it's a pretty tight fit I find for the helmets, and you do need to put them on sideways. So if you're ever looking at the other videos on the internet, you notice that people will put them on to their head sideways and then turn it forward. And that's just really due to the size or the opening for the helmet itself. So just to give you an idea. But once it's on, it's all good. So on camera, the lenses on the Stormtrooper helmet look relatively black, but you can actually see there is a green tint to it. I put a light in the back and you can see the green tinting of the lens material they use, and this is as it was in the original series. In the package will be a certificate of authenticity, and this one here is from RS Prop Masters, just telling you you've got a Stormtrooper Stunt Helmet, and it's number 5139 of the helmets that they've made for this particular stunt helmet series. Nice little hologram at the bottom. There is also a postcard that came in the box. It just refers to the Brian Muir edition, but this is really in regards to the armor. He was the designer of the armor. The helmet was designed or sculpted by Liz Moore, and that was as a result of taking, I guess, creative inspiration from the drawings from Ralph McQuarrie, who did a lot of the design work, early design work for the Star Wars franchise. Now, this particular helmet that I've selected here is the PVC plastic, which gives it a much more brighter white, which is more of an idealistic look. You can also get a ABS plastic, which gives it more of a creamier white. I think this actually looks just fantastic in person, and it really, to me, symbolizes or represents what I see in the films. So one of the questions I get is, why would you buy a helmet such as this? Well, it's probably because you want a piece of history with a direct lineage to the original made in the 1970s. And it's not something that's been mass produced like other collectibles. This is a custom built, handcrafted piece that's been faithfully recreated. All the little imperfections, all the dents, the asymmetrical design, that's what gives it its character and really makes it something that is a piece to have. Another little side feature is that if you're into trooping, this particular helmet is guaranteed to meet the eligibility requirements for the 501st. So that's a nice little feature to have. Now, there are lots of other manufacturers out there, and they do offer some really good products. Some are more sanitized, meaning that it's a perfectly symmetrical, everything's very flat or very smooth finished. But really, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's something what you like, that's by all means a great choice. For me, this represents the iconic design of the Stormtrooper. It's the charm of the imperfections, or maybe the tubing being slightly different from one side over the other. That's what really represents what I envisioned as a Stormtrooper. And it's something that really makes it a nice piece to have, and something that, I enjoy every day. And so would really recommend it. And if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. Until next time, happy trooping.